Okay, let me start my speech in three, two, one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I start my speech, I will have you to note that some of my arguments will be intertwined with my rebuttals. Let me start. First being, we believe that the test that has been provided and proposed by the opening by the government is ineffective because a huge majority of people, for example, Indonesian citizens or workers who does not have time to sit down and read books and learn about different types of ideology, regimes, governmental system, so on and so forth. Even if they do have several months to learn, as mentioned by the Prime Minister prior to the election, it would not be enough time for them to comprehend these concepts because ideologies and political matters are not concepts that are so easy to be understand. Second of all, the current status quo made by the Prime Minister does not apply because people who voted without understanding are mostly people who come from the low class society, which percentage is small. That means the votes that they made can still be overwhelmed by the votes made by the amount of people who are educated on basic political knowledge, such as lower to middle and middle class society people. The current status quo is all right because quite amount of people are already educated, and even youngsters who still go to school are already taught political knowledge in schools, therefore this test is not needed. Third point being, the Prime Minister did not mention further technicality on this test. They mentioned that the test is held between 5 years, same like the election. But this is not effective because 5 years is too long, and there is a big chance that people may have already forgotten what they have already learned. Wouldn't that just make them ineligible to vote again? But the Prime Minister did not specify on the technicalities if someone should retake the test to prove their eligibility again, even if they passed the test in the previous election. Fourth point being, they have characterized the technicality of the test itself, but failed to characterize the contents of the test itself, as in what should be considered as a basic political knowledge, and to and to what degree is and what degree should be considered as a basic political knowledge, and to what degree would the person be considered to pass. They also mentioned that they want the test to cover basic democracy knowledge and ideology, which then consistent with their other argument later saying that the test would force people to know about different types of ideology and not specifically on democracy only in order to solve polarization. They also characterize people who are able to vote as simply pass the knowledge test about all the parties exist in the election. And this characterization is lacking because it does not have any parameters of age and such. You cannot expect a teenager or elderly people to learn about politics just so they have to vote. While we believe that people, while we believe on our side of the house that the people who should be eligible to vote does not only they have to have the political knowledge, but also they have to be in the age of productivity and able to comprehend the concepts of basic political knowledge. And the age of productivity we mentioned here is 17 to 65 years old. And finally, the Prime Minister mentioned that the test would enforce people to know about different types of ideology in order to solve polarization. First of all, they did not define and characterize polarization and did not show evidence that polarization does happen in the current study school that they have built. And second of all, they did not elaborate or specify on the mechanism of why learning different types of ideology and political tests would solve polarization. And with that being said, we have several mechanisms that we believe are better than the tests that have been proposed, which is the current status quo is already fine because schools and universities are required to teach basic knowledge and political knowledge through subjects such as Pendidikan Kewarganegaraan and Pendidikan Pancasila, and would have to go through, and these students would have to go through quizzes, middle term tests, and final term tests in order to pass the subject. And the second mechanism is that for workers, there should be a socialization regarding political knowledge that is held more often, maybe on an annual basis or maybe on a monthly basis. For example, every 6 months or so. This method is more effective instead of the political test proposed by the Prime Minister because the period of time of the test that is proposed is too long. The socialization should be done through the government collaborating with the workers' company to help the socializations. And to maximize this mechanism, true digitalization should be held a post-test to confirm that the workers have understood the concepts that have been explained throughout the socialization. And with and finally, I will jump into some of my arguments that is aside of the rebuttals, which is our first argument is that our argument is that we believe that the current status quo people would have gained through the current status quo people will have already gained knowledge through school and workplaces, such as in the mechanism I have mentioned before. Therefore, we believe that the test is not needed. Second of all, Second of all, the prime minister needs to realize that people does not require it is not necessary for people to understand different types of ideology and such things in order to actually properly face a vote. What they should have learned is that the current situation of governmental in their country and the ideology and concepts of political matters and issues that actually happen in their country. They do not need to learn deep about other type of ideologies. They need to learn about the situation of their country themselves and ideology that is held by their country in order to actually properly vote for the election. And with that being said, we as the opposition side of the house beg to oppose.